The reason I said that was I was one of 3 brown people in that entire class, all right? Everybody in the class was not Indian or not Hindu, let's say. There are also non-Indian Hindus, of course. And it was my duty to stand up there and stand up for our culture. Because of that, I felt that there was a slight change in the way the professor started teaching Hinduism from that point onwards, all right? The reason I'm sharing these 2 stories is because that's how I started in getting involved in Hindu Students Council. So 22 years later, I'm standing right here as the national chairman of Hindu Students Council. HSC is the largest pan-Hindu youth organization in North America. It's been around since 1990, and I'm going to show you some stats, but about 200,000 students, just like yourselves and beyond, have gone through HSC's platform, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a few minutes talking to you about HSC, what it is, what are some of the activities that we do. I'm sure you guys are curious as to what this organization is about. So let me share a few points with you. So HSC, as I said, is an international youth forum that provides opportunities to learn about our Hindu heritage and culture. We do this in various ways, which I'll show you. And it's an organization, as Joyce mentioned, that it's an organization dedicated to creating confident and strong Hindu leaders of tomorrow. All right? And we'll talk about what that really means in a little bit. But HSC's platform has been explored by so many different types of youth who come from India, come from the Caribbean, who are even non-Indian or non-Caribbean Hindus, like white Hindus, Spanish Hindus, black Hindus. So we have Hindus from all over the world. We have even Chinese and Korean Hindus. So the idea is that it provides an ideal platform for a lot of students who are trying to explore their identity, what it means to be a Hindu, how can I get in touch with and network with like-minded people, and develop the leadership skills that are needed by combining our identity, the Hindu identity, but also our professional work into one. So like I said, over 200,000 youth have gone through HSC's activities globally, and it's made a huge impact on the way today how Hindus feel on college campuses. So why do we actually do HSC? First one is to advocate for our community. There are a lot of issues. When I was in high school, I told you about my story. I'm sure when you start from 6th grade onwards, you see that there's a caste system being taught. There's all this like poverty in India being taught and stuff like that. And when you compare that with the Christian tradition or the Muslim tradition or any other traditions, it's really interesting because in a way, and I have data for this, actually Rajiv Ji, in 2005 when the California textbook crisis happened, Rajiv Malhotra Ji, who's a famous author, he came up with an analysis to show how Hinduism versus other religions are treated, all right, in 6th grade California textbooks. So from 6th grade onwards, everybody starts to learn how horrible Hindus are or how bizarre Hindus are because of these weird caste systems, weird rituals. A lot of problems in India are because of Hindus. A lot of these things that you start learning, okay? And when you are a high school student or a middle school student and stuff like that, you're shaking your head and you're saying, that's not what I learned at home. That's not what I'm learning. My parents are teaching me something else. These rituals, these traditions that we're learning, it's not bizarre. I understand. You may not understand it, but I understand it, right? So it's a direct attack on our identity in a way. So as a result, HSC spends a lot of time in advocacy work where we try to correct these misperceptions, whether it's in the community, whether it's in college, whether it's in high school, in different forms. All right, so that's one big thing that we do, and I'll show you some examples a little later. The next one is youth empowerment. A lot of times, when you are at home, right, you may or may not learn about what it means to be a Hindu. So our parents, I'm a parent of an 8-year-old, soon to be 9. Sometimes we kind of do pujas or we do things and we never explain what it really means. So, kids are like, one kid told me it's like sitting for 1 hour in a French class without understanding any bit of French. That's how it feels, okay? So I said, that's interesting. So for me, I was like, okay, how can we as HSC provide that? So our objective is to provide the authentic information, to provide relevant information about why we do certain things, why our symbols exist, what are some of the festivals, how can we learn about our history and culture? Because a lot of times, as I said, in high schools, we don't learn about Hindu history and culture. They only talk about the Mughal invasions, maybe about the Gupta Empire, and boom, 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 that's it. But you never talk about what happened to, how Swami Vivekananda influenced American thought process when he came to America, right? Nobody knows about it. How he influenced Rockefeller, how he influenced Nikola Tesla. I'm pretty sure that in high school we don't talk about this stuff, all right? So our objective is to empower youth by this type of information, but also creating a network. Like imagine there are thousands of us, thousands of kids who are in the same, who have faced the same challenge, and I'm sure everybody is in that same boat, but also have the resources that can talk to, you can talk to each other, peer-to-peer support. You get information from HSC, or you can connect with the community. You can be better advocates, and you can empower yourself in the community by joining HSC. So that's why HSC is a platform for youth empowerment. And third one is Seva. So volunteerism is very big in HSC. We provide a lot of opportunities for volunteerism, and I'm going to share a project with you in a little bit. But bottom line is, whether you talk about going to the local soup kitchens or the food banks, all the way to go to India for volunteering opportunities, we have that. And a lot of students enjoy this because it's a way for them to connect and give back to the community, but also to earn volunteer hours, right? Because in high schools, you're supposed to do a certain amount of hours of volunteering, so this is a great platform for you to also volunteer, all right? And we also talk about how we do some of these fundraisers and stuff. So we raise a lot of money for underprivileged kids in India. A lot of these things can be done. So as you guys are thinking about how can I get involved, you don't have to be very knowledgeable about Hindu Dharma or anything like that. If you're curious to learn about our history, if you're interested in volunteering, things like that, you should join HSC. Next. All right, so what do we do? So, a whole lot of things, let's put it this way. Think about like large international and national conferences, camps, and retreats. We have that. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about the Hindu Leaders of Tomorrow conference that's coming up in June. HSC has done hundreds of seminars and conferences where we bring very famous speakers and very famous personalities on our platform and connect them with the youth. So they give the message of why it's important to be Hindu and what India or the Indian culture has to offer. All right. Then we also make sure that the celebrations of Holi, Navratri, Pongal, etc. are celebrated authentically. Let me stress that, authentically. Why am I saying that? It's because a lot of times we know that, and when you go to college, you'll see this more, that Diwali becomes a big giant party, all right? But the meaning of Diwali is erased from it. And when you start to say, this is our festival, people have an issue with it. Because they're like, oh, well, Diwali is supposed to be secular. I think that's nonsense because of the fact that, would you ever consider other festivals secular, like Eid or Baisakhi and things like that? Well, other communities may have a problem with that. So why can't we celebrate our traditional festivals authentically? So HSC provides that opportunity to make sure that our kids, whether in high school or in college, get an opportunity to celebrate. Because our tradition is live and alive because of our festivals, all right? Then we have career networking and mentorship. So we host how to get into college admissions sessions. We also hold medical school sessions, so how to get into medical schools once you're in college. Also, resume workshop. In fact, in 2 weeks, Rutgers is having one resume workshop, the HSC at Rutgers, for example. So things like that we hold. And the reason that is because it's not just about your culture and stuff like that. The Hindu identity encompasses everything, right? You're not saying, when you go to work or when you go to school, you're not saying, I'm going to keep my Hindu identity home. You're carrying it everywhere you go. So when we go, we should be all-rounded. So we should be good in our professional works, academic work, at home, in our educational values, in all of those things. So the networking forums and career sessions are really important from that perspective. And of course, group discussions about different topics as they relate to Hindu heritage and culture. So whether it's understanding of history, our identity, misperceptions about our tradition, famous people, so many different things. We talked about volunteering. So volunteering with community organizations. We participate in HSCs in 35 different universities in North America, from Canada down to Miami, and out to Chicago, and we're also starting in West Coast now. So the idea is we participate in these local communities, whether it's with the temples or with the school libraries or with community organizations. It doesn't have to be Hindu organizations, by the way, because we're a part of the community. We're not just part of the Hindu community. So we need to make sure that we volunteer and provide service to all the local people that get impacted by different things. So that's really important. Then, of course, strategies to deal with issues. So as high schoolers, we have a lot of issues, right? Whether it's concerns about bullying, concerns about substance abuse, concerns about Hindu identity, many different things. So we bring in experts, whether they're psychologists, they're teachers, or they're local community members with the expertise to make sure that they can teach us the strategies of how to deal with these things, all right? And of course, yoga and meditation sessions. A lot of schools nowadays offer yoga and meditation sessions. So what can we do differently? Well, there are two things that we can do differently. One is make that more regular, even in the school, but also at home. But second thing is provide the philosophical as well as the educational background. Because a lot of times yoga just becomes a bunch of exercises, all right? Or meditation is, oh, just say Om, you know? But that's only the surface, right? We need to go deeper. And when you go a little bit deeper, you'll realize how beneficial it is for you. Because it's not just for your body. It's for your body, mind, your atma. It connects everything together, all right? And that's why we have the yoga and meditation sessions. Next. So let me give you some examples of advocacy. Go ahead. So what does advocacy mean? As I mentioned, addressing issues affecting Hindus around the world. Things like defamation, Hindu phobia. Everybody talks about Islamophobia, right? Most people are aware of what that is, but nobody knows what Hindu phobia is, or many people don't know what Hindu phobia is. Biases and misconceptions about our tradition, and then providing the strategies, as I mentioned earlier, to deal with these things. So to give you two examples, so one, you'll see on the bottom left side and the bottom right side, about 2 years ago, CNN came up with a documentary that was aired called The Aghori. It was about the Aghoris. And it was very nasty. They talked about how like these Hindus are very dirty. There's a guy named Reza Aslan who was the CNN contributor who was doing the documentary. He went to Varanasi and he found these like really bizarre places. He found like this one guy urinating on him and stuff like that. So this is like live on CNN, okay? Cannibalism, things like that. So to show that this is kind of what Hinduism is, all right? So we came out and then we basically created a forum between us, like for example with Rajiv Malhotraji of Infinity Foundation. So we did an interview with him to show why, as college students, as young professionals, this is really horrible for us, that this is not what our tradition is. And then we also were on Mana TV to talk about the same issue because our community doesn't know. You know, not everybody watches CNN, not everybody sees that. So why don't we know about this? I'm not sure how many people saw the 2017 CNN documentary or heard of it, but I bet you there were at least 50% of the people in this room may not even have heard of it. So that's really horrible because CNN is a very, very authentic or important news resource. And in fact, there were a couple of classroom teachers who said that, thank you for making the documentary, I'm gonna teach this in my classroom. So now think about the Indiana Jones stuff that I told you earlier, right? That was how many years ago? 1995 or 96, okay? This is 2017. So 20 years later, it's still going on, right? So what I'm talking about is not just the past, but it's also the future. This was also in the 90s. Aerosmith, everybody heard of the band called Aerosmith? Okay, so Aerosmith came up with a CD called 9 Lives. And in the 9 Lives, something bizarre is there. You see, if you know the story of Krishna and Kalia, which is the serpent, so you have Krishna on top of the serpent with the cat's face and woman's breast. Okay, this was a CD cover that came out in the 90s. So Sony and Aerosmith came up with the CD. So what did HSC do? HSC, along with various Hindu groups, went after them and said, look, you guys need to change this because this is very offensive to us. And all the groups banded together, ISKCON, American Hindus Against Defamation, VHPA, HSS, Chinmaya Mission, HSC, all the groups came together and did made a lot of noise around it. So then as a result, Sony was forced to remake the CD cover, all right? So advocacy works, okay? But we just got to do it. So that's really important for us. Next. Recently, if you know Audrey Trutchke, who was an interesting professor at Rutgers, she's been saying a lot of Hindu-phobic comments about us, India, things like that. And there's nobody challenging her. Our community, we have individual voices saying, oh, she's so bad, she's doing this. But do you know how many students there are at Rutgers that are of Hindu or Indian descent?
6,000.
6,000 students, all right? 6,000. So all of you people who are giving tax dollars to New Jersey, and people who are sending kids to Rutgers, there's a professor who keeps talking about how Rama was a misogynistic pig and how swastika is like a Nazi symbol, basically, and many other things. So what we did was we have started a few things. I can't reveal all the details, But one thing that we did was we started this petition. And within a matter of 7 or 8 days, we got 3,500 signatures, okay? Because a lot of people were very angry. So what we have done is, after the petition, we have started a few things to correct those issues within Rutgers. So we need help. You know, the community should know. South Brunswick is like literally 15 minutes from Rutgers, and a lot of the kids might end up going to Rutgers. So would you have a university that is like that endorsing Hindu phobia? The answer is no. Because if this happened to, let's say, Muslims on campuses or Christians or Jews on campuses, that professor will be fired.
Exactly.
But in the case of Hindus, it doesn't happen. All right? Next one. We talked about youth empowerment a little bit, but why is youth empowerment important? Because the more you get involved in activities, the more you meet people who are like-minded, just like you, or think like you and stuff like that, you get to learn a lot of things. So within the youth empowerment, next, go ahead. We promote awareness about Hindu history. The history part is really important because, you know, many people in high school and stuff come from different religious backgrounds. Like, for example, you may be part of some sampradaya, whether it's a Vaishnava sampradaya or a Shaiva sampradaya, maybe part of a temple, things like that. So for HSC, there's no like religious aspect because we respect those different types of rituals and things that go on at home. So if people want to celebrate that, that's totally fine. So we emphasize a lot on history and identity because we can do puja in multiple ways, but our history cannot be, you know, history, the way it's taught in high schools is very different than what we know as history. So we want to bring out our history and our cultural heritage more and more in high schools and colleges. So we spend a lot of time on that. We talk about authentic celebrations of Diwali and Holi and Navratri and stuff. This is critical because if we don't do it ourselves, nobody else is going to do it. All right? So we have two choices. Tomorrow, Diwali becomes a festival of lights only, just like Holi is becoming the color run, and there's nothing Hindu about it. Or we can say, hey, look, this is our festival. You guys are welcome to come, welcome to participate, but don't ruin it. No? Don't like whitewash it. This is our festival. Just like everybody else would be the same thing. If you go to some Muslim person and you say, hey, you know what, in Eid, we're gonna have some alcohol, we're gonna have a party, let's do this, all right? Guess what? Guess the answer. What's the answer you're gonna get? So why is it cool to do that in Diwali or Navratri and stuff like that? All right? And that's why it's important for them. Then we also want to make sure that the youth become tomorrow's leaders. So learning about your heritage, but also presenting, debating, participating in conferences, organizing. So developing those organizational skills, those public speaking skills, those debate skills, that are really important. So that's one thing that we provide in HSC. Of course, we talked about college admissions and networking forums. We also invite speakers who are very renowned, and I'll show you some pictures later on, who actually come and lead discussions or participate on HSC's conferences to inspire youth to become better leaders of tomorrow. And we'll see some examples coming up. Next. And Seva. Seva connects, okay? You may not be so religious because people will, in the FAQs, you'll see a question, is this a religious organization? And we have an underline saying, no, it's not. Because a lot of times, the moment you say Hindu, there's this misconception that we're just this puja, temple organization. We respect that, no doubt, but we are not a religious organization, all right? Our focus, although there are aspects of that, our focus is really on teaching people about Hindu identity, about the history, and participating in the festivals and participating in the some of the rituals and traditions, no doubt. But that's not the only thing. So rituals and traditions might be a small part of our overall thing, all right? And then social empowerment projects locally and internationally. I'm going to show you an example of that we're launching actually soon. But the idea is creating change in the community through Seva. All right? There's a project going on right now called Seva Diwali. Some of you may have heard of it. It was started by Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, but now it incorporates like 50, 60, 100 different organizations in the New Jersey area, as well as now in 11 states. So HSC is part of that group. And what we do is when Diwali comes around, we make sure that we are either collecting food, going and doing some volunteering, many different things all around Diwali. So incorporating that aspect of Seva is really important. And then mentorship and peer support. Many of you who are in high school will go to college. You must be curious. What's college like? You know, where can I get help? Who can I talk to? You know, what are some of the issues that people face in college? So we provide that kind of mentorship and peer support. So, you know, like for example, I went to college, you know, Parth, who's here as well, He's a PhD student in Princeton. So many of us are from that background. We've grown up here. We know the lingo. We know the culture. So we can connect with these students and talk to them about what it means. And then beyond college, right? What does it mean to have a career? So it's an end-to-end process in that sense. Let me show you some famous personalities that have been on HSC's platform, as I was telling you earlier. So on the top left side is Dr. Abdul Kalam, who's a former president of India. He spoke at the Global Dharma Conference. Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, founder of Art of Living. He spoke at the 2015 Global Dharma Conference. This is from our Freedom Festival 1997, and maybe you guys know the picture there. But as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he actually, before he was Prime Minister, he came to HSC's 1997 conference, Freedom Festival, and he spoke about that. In fact, it's funny, to digress for 10 seconds, the person sitting on the right side here is one of the founders of HSC. And when this session was happening, he got up there and he said, "Meet the future Prime Minister of India."
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's actually, I have it documented in an Atlanta article. So yeah, that was kind of freaky like that, but yeah, that's what happened. Then over here is Dr. Deepak Chopra, famous, kind of guru and stuff. But sorry, Dayanand Saraswati, founder of Arshavidya Gurukulam. You may know him. A lot of people have gotten his blessings and have been very inspired by him. In the center, Pujya Swami Chinmayananda. Pujya Swami Chinmayananda actually was a huge supporter of HSC. He, when HSC was formed, he spent, he came and basically went to 5 different universities and gave a whole series of lectures. So there was a Yuva conference that MIT had organized, and he was a keynote speaker at the Yuva conference. So from Swami Chinmayananda down to the entire lineage of Swamijis, everybody has been exposed to HSC in some way, shape, or form. And then we have Ms. Kiran Bedi ji. She was the first woman cop IPS officer in India. She spoke at the 2003 Global Dharma Conference. Dr. Subhash Kak is a famous Indologist and scientist. And Dr. Manjul Bhargav, he's Princeton, and he's a famous mathematician. And then finally, Governor Jim McGreevey of New Jersey. So he's an ex-governor of New Jersey. He spoke at the Global Dharma Conference also. In fact, his speech was very, very interesting and inspiring, coming from a non-Hindu. Next one.
Who's next to Swami Chinayananda?
Oh, go ahead, go back. You're on the right or left?
Oh, Yogesh.
On the right, Yogini Shambhavi. She's, so she is Dr. David Frawley's wife.
Oh.
Yes.
Here comes that,
The Dharma Conference, 2015 Dharma Conference, yes. So,
Manjul Bhargava was there.
yeah, Manjulji, so all of them were there, exactly. So she spoke via video conference. All right, next. And then we have Anil Kapoor. So Anil Kapoor came to, we did a fundraiser for the Global Dharma Conference back in 2003. So he came as a chief guest and, come to support HSC. As you can see, some of us taking pictures. I wasn't in the picture because I was taking the picture. And then Goldie Hawn, actress, Hollywood actress. She actually spoke at the 2003 Global Dharma Conference as well. And then Prabhu Swami Maharaj actually also was founder of BAPS, or not founder, but one of the prominent Swamijis of BAPS. He spoke live via video conference from India. Dr. David Frawley, Dr. Rajiv Malhotra, famous tabla maestro Zakir Hussain also performed at the Global Dharma Conference. So you can see where I'm going with this. The bottom line is HSC has had some amazing people. Over 200 world-renowned speakers, spiritual personalities, political leaders have been on HSC's platform in the last 30 years. Some famous alums. Ms. Nina Davluri. Who doesn't know Ms. Nina Davluri? Anybody know? Not know? Okay. So she is former Miss America 2014. She was the first Indian American Miss America. And she went to University of Michigan, where she was part of HSC there. All right. On the right is Mr. Vivek Kundra. So when the Obama administration, when President Obama was first in his office, he formed a new department called the Chief Information Office. And Vivek Kundraji was the first CIO of the United States. All right. His sister, she used to be the HSC president at Cornell University. So she was around my age, so we worked a lot together at between Rutgers and Cornell and stuff like that. So just to give you some little background about some HSC alums. Next. So it's great. Now let's hear from the students, and we'll hear from a couple of students as well. So what is HSC's impact on the youth? A few examples. So one of the former presidents of Rutgers said the following: "When I saw people from different backgrounds join together to speak about a common identity, it changed my life. It is an event that extends a beautiful bond between Hindus in America." This was from the camp that we had done. And Devapriya, who was a graduate from Princeton University, said the following: "HSC camp helped me understand aspects of Hindu Dharma on a deep level and how to communicate that with people who are either interested in learning or have misconceptions about my tradition." So these are the types of things, and we have hundreds of these comments of us, which I cannot share here because of the time constraint. But I just wanted to share this information with you because this is the type of impact that we make on students, whether it's in college or now in high schools as well. And we'll hear from a high school student soon. Next. Yep, so if you want to find out more information about HSC, you can go to our website, hindustudentscouncil.org. Everybody should have the flyer, I think. You can connect with us on Facebook. And also, of course, write to us at info@hindustudentscouncil.org. We also have an Instagram account at HSC National. And then we also have a LinkedIn account as well. So we're on different social media platforms. No TikTok yet.
Should we get some chairs?
Yeah. So let me...